data and AI in real estate. Now, this will be an interesting one when we talk about AI and how AI is actually coming into play in real estate. The moderator for this will be Paul Masharia, CEO of Kyoto Pay. He'll be assisted in the panel by Susan Kerrie, Commercial Director at Cytec Solar. We're to have Christabel Ojok, the Head of Client Relations and Operations at Rentsco, but Christabel will be replaced by David Kimani, who's the CEO of Rentsco. Elizabeth Costabile, who is the CEO of Byron Kenya. Mwai Moria, CEO and founder, Empire Energy. So once you get mic'd, please come up on stage and you can join Paul to have this conversation. Liz, are you okay? All right, welcome. Okay, Paul, we can begin.
So very happy to be here. This is a panel that is a bit more general in comparison with the last two panels that was looking at technology relative to property ownership, relative to building. And I'll start with one quote from Jeff Bezos that says that businesses should focus on what makes their beer taste better and outsource everything else. So what he didn't say is that the outsourcing part is to technology and technology-driven businesses. And we're going to be looking at data and AI and how it's driving decision-making in real estate. And data and AI is not a new conversation in real estate. Started way back in the early 2000s. The first FAQs, or what we call frequent asked questions. First chatbots that were created in early 2000 had a bit of component of AI. And it has continued to evolve. Real estate has borrowed a bit of it in its various domains. So whether you're looking at property ownership, whether you're looking at property search and marketing, whether you're looking at building that we've been discussing on, construction with BMI. So these are a bit of different components of technology that real estate has borrowed over time. And we'll be discussing with a panel today in a specific way on how we can borrow comparatives on how data and AI has been relied upon in real estate, as well as draw lessons that we can all use in our various areas. So I'm going to give a chance to my panel to introduce themselves, and then we'll pick it from there. So we can start on the gentleman on my far left.
Thank you, Paul. My name is Mwai Moria. Our company is Empire Energy. Empire Energy addresses the challenge that 30% of energy used in buildings is wasted. This problem is mostly compounded by the lack of the consumers' access to consumption and usage analytics. And what we provide is an energy management or an energy monitoring platform that uses machine learning, IoT, and AI that helps energy consumers be able to understand their usage and to limit wastage. We are in Kenya, and we've been able to provide these to over 1,000 buildings, serving close to 1,000 consumers by now. Thank you, Paul.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As introduced, my name is Elizabeth Costabia. I'm the CEO for Byron Kenya and a smaller entity called PKRME. But basically, Byron Kenya connects buyers and sellers who transact online, and we're the leading property marketplace. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you all. My name is David Kimani from Rentsco. You can mark my face to Christabel up here. I'm the one who's representing her today and representing the company. So at Rentsco, what we do, we enable Kenyans to own homes affordably. So we're trying to break the notion that owning a home is something which is for a certain demographic who's rich or above, within the 10 percentile. So we tell people that regardless of whatever income you make, there can be a home for you. And first things first is what falls within affordability of your income. And then the next thing is which payment plans or payment options fall again within the affordability for you to own them. Great to be here.
Great. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Susan Carey. I'm the commercial director at Cytec Solar. So we are an IoT-driven renewable energy company offering solar PV solutions to the commercial and industrial sector, as well as the residential sector. Maybe a bit of learning for you is what is AI. So these are just computer systems that maybe came in to replace the traditional human thinking, because I know sometimes we throw in words and maybe part of maybe even the panel or even the attendees are not aware on these heavy terms that we use. So basically they're just computer systems that can actually reason, then actually do problem solving, and they can make decisions. And then when you speak about IoT or the Internet of Things, traditionally we used to call it machine to machine, basically one machine speaking to another machine, they're exchanging information, and we're able to get either data or information in real time. So Cytec Solar, being a Kenyan company and soon expanding to Tanzania and Uganda, we offer smart solutions, especially in the real estate sector. We work with property developers actually to come up with smart concepts, smart homes, smart infrastructure, smart cities, because we've seen actually this happening in Europe, in Southeast Asia, and maybe even pose a challenge. Why is it that we can't adopt the smart cities or smart infrastructure technology in Africa? It is doable, and people like Cytec Solar, we are here to offer such services. We also do solar water pumping. We do solarization of boreholes. We offer solar water pumping as well. And we do lighting, so we do solar floodlights, and then the bigger IoT spectrum on smart metering, especially for the utilities like water and electricity, as well as just come in and sit with you, get to understand your needs in terms of, in the real estate industry, and then we come up with solutions that are actually custom-based as per your requirements. Thank you, and I'm happy to be here representing Cytec. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So my name is Paul. We are a property technology company, Eapi. Basically, we focus on payments and business workflows for real estate businesses. So we work with developers, landlords, as well as contractors. Let me start with you, Susan, and I'll sway the conversation a bit towards energy. So Kenya, we've been primed to be one of forefronts in renewable energy. Mostly spoken in panels and international platforms. But one of the key questions has been the issue of energy and availability and reliability. And I know Cytec Solar, apart from offering an alternative way to energy, is also working around optimizing it to make it ideally to achieve energy efficiency. I don't know whether you could talk in terms of some of the technologies that you are employing to make a more sustainable, more reliable energy availability within real estate. Speak about that.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for that question. So as Cytec Solar, again, we are big on implementing IoT-driven solutions, especially in energy management. And maybe I'll speak about our smart metering offering, which actually deals with the utilities. This is water and electricity. And I think maybe traditionally what has been happening is, you just get a bill from your utility provider, which has an amount down here and some numbers that you're not able to crack. So what we do as Cytec, we actually come in and bring in a smart metering. It is a smart electric meter that actually logs your data. You're able to tell in terms of energy management and consumption. You can tell your daily consumption, weekly, that can go to monthly and even annually. So you're actually able to tabulate and, apart from just getting an aggregate figure in your bill that we never understand, because personally I feel it has a lot of jargon. Yeah, but we come in and simplify that. We give you the analytics of how your consumption patterns are, and with this you can actually make informed decisions. And maybe as when you come in, I mean, to give affordable and clean maybe energy sources using solar, we log first of all your site, or if it's your home, or if it's your office or your building, to get your energy patterns and consumption. And then we come in and analyze that data so that when I'm doing something called a system size, when I'm doing a solar PV for, let's say, your home or your building, I'm actually informing that by the data that I've collected. Because people just come in, look at your roof, they're like, here I think I can put 10 panels, 5 inverters, but I mean, as a homeowner, you need to explain to me why you're doing 2 panels, 3 inverters, all these things that solar companies actually do. So we bring in and give you that data and actually explain why we are putting, let's say, a 1 kilowatt peak system, 2 kilowatt peak system, which is now driven by the data that we've acquired from the data logging that we do. So we are able now to size like optimal systems that can actually address your energy needs. Yeah, and it will help you actually even get informed, because apart from the meters, we also have like smart sockets and basically smart products. We have like smart sockets, we have smart circuit breakers, smart switches, smart plugs that you can actually even plug in, let's say, your fridge, an appliance to that socket. It gives you the analytics and the data in terms of the consumption of that machine, and again, makes you have informed decision on maybe, addressing on why I'm having like a huge power bill and I'm being charged X at the end of the month, and it helps with the energy efficiency. So we are able actually to provide this to the end customer, and even pose as a challenge, especially for property developers. When you make your property smart, when you make your building smart, when you make your house smart, when we have these, apartments smart, it's actually a more, I will say, attractive investment for me personally, Susan, if I'm looking to buy a property. Because everyone is inclined to connected living. We want smart technologies, simplified technologies, and I'll just pose a challenge, especially to property developers. When you already make these homes, buildings, apartments smart, they are more lucrative. The ROI is high, yeah, and it's a more attractive investment for someone, yeah.
Okay, so I'll come to you, Mwai, because you're somewhere close with what SciTech is doing in energy management. I'll talk about, maybe to bring out my question more clearly. So one, when we look at AI, we have to consider both generative AI, which is more of borrowing from, complex patterns, right? Or other complex information to come up with, ideally, generative artificial intelligence. So, but I'm more leaning towards predictive AI, basically just borrowing on a very predefined pattern and being able to offer something that could ideally drive decision making. I know you've been in the industry for some time, but is there in any way that you've been able to rely on existing data, especially for energy consumption? Has it made any difference in probably the meter that you're offering to the market, in terms of cost for the end user? Or even in terms of ease of implementation or ease of sizing the projects that you work with? Is there in any way that you've been able to bank on data to assist, for implementing energy management solutions?
Thank you, Paul. I think what I can say is that in the energy efficiency solutions or what we are providing, the biggest win or the deal breaker is the behavior change of the consumers. In terms of how they're able to understand their consumption patterns. And this is not only for their own consumption, but using technologies like AI, you can be able to compare, for example, if I'm in an apartment block and all of us are in say a 2 or 3 bedrooms, I can be able to give them what I would call like normative feedback based on what the rest of the consumers are using, such that I can be able to provide, for example, myself, like a graph of how much I should be able to set as how much I should be able to use in terms of energy consumption. And this can all be used by getting data from equivalent of you in terms of maybe the household size, the number of residents and all that, so that you can be able to know, how much or how best you can be able to change your behavior and be able to to be more efficient when it comes to energy consumption. So when it comes to technologies like AI or predictive AI, I think the biggest thing is how that data that has been received can be able to be used not only for the person who is actually using that data, but across a community or across a society and be able to be leveraged. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let me come to you, Liz. You're in search. Search is not a new industry. It has existed for a couple of years now. But in very specific way, how do you think the large accumulation of data over time, as well as the new technology in AI, how do you think they have transformed a search from an end user perspective? Is it much easier to be able to find a suitable property? Is it much easier for you to be able to do proper targeting? And how has that transformed search landscape for property buyers and sellers?
Thank you. Great question. So at Byron, Kenya, obviously the AI landscape has been changing on a high speed. I would call it very high speed on a daily, monthly, weekly, yearly basis over a period of time over the past decades, right? And we've got to be at the forefront of this big change. And how do we do that? So at Byron, Kenya, as part of the larger entity and the group, we've come up with a manifesto, right? Because when I think about AI, I think about AI as a team player, number one. So let's start inside out, okay? Google, the world's big giant when it comes to search engine, right, are at the forefront with their latest and most capable large language learning model, which is Gemini, right? And now, how does Gemini recognize Byron, Kenya, for example, and other websites alike? So it's how do we make this Gemini understand unstructured data? How does it read what we're supposed to do? How do people, when they're searching for property online, how is their search generative engine experience? And collectively, how does this all work together, right, for us? And when I think about Gemini, the first thing we wanted to do is, how does Gemini understand Byron, Kenya? How does it understand what do we do, what do we offer, our products and services? And that is all about establishing your entity, right? So that when you are ranking amongst everyone else in the world, right, Gemini is able to understand who is Byron, Kenya, and what do they do. And then when it comes to people searching for property online, for example, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom in Kileleshwa, and I'm looking for the pricing, you're able to see that AI generative search query that comes up almost like ChatGPT when you're trying to find out what are the pricing. So you're going to get the pricing information. You're going to get the, the different apartment blocks or the type of housing that you're looking for, and it's going to give you some sort of feedback. And in order for that to happen, we are already on the forefront of making Gemini understand who we are and what we do.
Let me come to you, David. And in property sales, I think one of the questions that I'm sure is top of mind most people is that whether you're looking at financial institutions or even private companies, they're sitting on large piles of data. And this is consumer data, ideally the kind of people that acquire property and so forth. And we still have a huge mismatch, demand and supply that still exists. And I know you're looking at areas such as affordability, that ideally you're able to match a property with a suitable buyer who can be able to acquire that property. So in what ways do you see, AI changing how you do that matching of property with a suitable buyer, and how are you leveraging on that to be able to deliver a very specific kind of property to a select user?
Great. And I'll also come to a bit of what Elizabeth said in terms of using AI to sort of predict what someone is looking for. So us, we're starting from a point of view of, first things first, since then marketing has been sales, our number one focus is market education. Because we've seen the people with the funds to buy homes already know they can buy a home. Now, there are others, people who earn an income, but they still think that not within the space of home ownership. We're here to tell them that there's a way you can own a home affordably. When it comes now to aggregating all this data and using that to tell people on how they can get to own homes, we've seen it as partnership. First and foremost, obviously, there are institutions which you can get an into much faster. So like right now, we are in the process of working with the savings app, whereby people can start saving for the deposit towards their home ownership. When you look at that, when you look at someone's M-Pesa statement, and we look at someone's spending habits, we're using predictive analytics to be able to tell, if we assess your statement, we can be able to score you based on your rental history. Because a good amount of the people who are paying rent within the affordable housing space are paying within M-Pesa. I'm sure like 90% of people here are paying their rent by M-Pesa. So if you assess your statement in the past 2 years, and we see you've been paying your rent well, that means that should be able to tell that wherever you're moving to the benefit of the property manager, they'll be getting a quality tenant. When we talk about home ownership, if you're looking at a financial partner who's doing rent to own, they can rely on that information to say, since this person has been paying the rent well, I can consider them a quality buyer. Why don't I give them a house on rent to own? And we hope also that the banks and circles, because the unfortunate thing is, as much as they're calling it affordable home loans, you still have to rely on your bank statements and credit history to be able to qualify. Now, if you look at a market in Kenya, the people who fall within affordability are people who are self-employed. So if you go to someone to say, all your money has been coming into M-Pesa, all your spend from your business is through M-Pesa, then you go tell the bank, I can afford a home, the bank will still ask you for your bank statements. So what we're trying to tell the financial institutions and other institutions which are providing home ownership is they can rely as well on M-Pesa statements. Beyond that, other spending habits, you can also use them to use predictive analytics to be able to determine what the affordability is. Because beyond now saying this person can pay the rent well, how much can they afford? Our main agenda here in RentScore is to say that you can own a home at the same rate as your rent. So what we look at is, based on your income, we're able to derive how much can you comfortably pay per month towards home ownership or even rent. So if you're earning 100,000 shillings, and let's say we say you can pay 30 to 40,000 shillings. Now, we use our affordability tools to determine what homes fall within that range. Once you find a home within that range, now you've removed all the guesswork. So someone who's saying 100,000 shillings per month, they can't be rushing to buy a 13 million shilling house. So we tell them this is what we have matched against what we've seen in terms of your income and your rental history. Now, if you want to buy the house, now we can connect you with payment plans, again, which are within your affordability. So like also Unity Homes are doing the same thing, whereby they're enabling people to own homes at 45,000 shillings per month. So we have different payment plans, whichever falls within affordability. We've been able to tell you that based on your history. And then after that, now we connect you to the banks and the developer to get to own the home. Yeah.
Let me come back to you, Susan, and 2 questions. One of them is, perhaps you could shed light into, in your own view, why do you think the uptake of alternative energy management solution is still has a low uptake? Then the other question is, one of the questions that came up in the last panel, that we need more examples of successful projects that have relied on technology. And perhaps you could share a project that you know, whether you implemented IoT solutions, what were the actual savings in terms of cost, anything that we could borrow from, and perhaps replicate in other projects.
Okay, great. Thanks, Paul. So I think maybe the major challenge I see, or the hindrance, is actually access to finance, especially for alternative sources of energy. You know, solar can be quite expensive, but as SciTech as well, we partner with financial partners who can actually assist and give access to any customer, whether a building owner or a homeowner wanting, you know, to adopt like alternative source of energy, clean power, you know, contributing to the fight against climate change. You know, there's also the green image aspect, and I think majorly is on the cost saving. So major challenge again I see is access to finance, actually to deploy such solutions, and we have a solution for that, partnering with financial partners who can actually give you quick access to funds for such projects, whether it's C&I, commercial and industrial, or residential solutions. And in terms of deployment of the smart IoT technologies, I will say biggest success has actually been on like remote monitoring, because that's what we do for all our PV solutions. We do remote monitoring that actually gives you data, and it gives you all required information on performance of a PV system in real time. So you find that by the time even there's an issue with the system at the customer's end, we're able to capture that through the real-time monitoring and actually even curb it before the real, let's say, problem happens. And this it really saves costs on both our end and the customer's end. Another maybe IoT solution that we've maybe successfully as well implemented is the smart home or smart city concept, whereby we bring in these smart products and smart solutions, like again the smart sockets, you know, smart circuit breakers. Because you can imagine typically in the era that we are living, if I can comfortably heat my home at the comfort of my parking, you can imagine how transformative that is for me. That I can even switch my lights from the tap of a button on my phone or on my laptop, because sometimes, you're living in a hurry, you left your lights on, but if you incorporate these smart technologies, all these things in terms of energy management, you're actually able to curb that with the adoption of smart products and smart solutions. We have such solutions at Cytec Solar that can actually help you in terms of energy efficiency and management. And again, as I said, we are moving into the era of connected living and smart living. So if I can actually, use my phone to actually open my gate, like I really don't need to call someone from the house to come and open my gate. There are smart solutions to do that. We can actually automate that gate, that when you come in through whichever, even if it's biometrics or the touch of a button, the gate opens. It saves you a lot of time. It saves, it actually makes your living very easy. So as I will say, a company that actually offers these IoT solutions, because we are very big on IoT. I mean, IoT is our backbone. We live, breathe, and want to actually see Africa being transformed and actually adopt IoT. As I've said, it is being done in other continents, and I feel that we have actually the user cases to do that. And even another thing that I feel that even customers, I mean, both residential and maybe commercial, think that these solutions are very expensive. No, they are not. Yeah, when you think IoT, automation, you're like, maybe that's not it for me because, it might be cost effective. They're very affordable solutions, and they're not like customized. We don't have like off-the-shelf kind of solutions. We actually come in, sit with you, get to understand your needs, then we make something that actually speaks to your needs. So IoT, they're affordable. Financing is there for such solutions. And again, I urge like property developers, people in real estate, if you want to make your properties lucrative, make them smart. We have the infrastructure. We can actually build smart infrastructure for such services.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Susan. So let me come back to you, Elizabeth. So in terms of property marketplace, like buy, rent, Kenya, I know you've talked a bit about the demand side. But in terms of the supply side, and these are the property developers and the property sellers on your platform, is there any way in which you are relying on the data that you're receiving from your buyer side to inform the property developers and sellers on what, in terms of preference, is being demanded from the market? Do you have any lessons that you've learned out of that? And what can property developers and sellers ideally borrow from buy rent?
From us. Yeah, thank you. So definitely the power of data is top of mind for us as a business in more ways than one. So first of all, when we look at data analytics, which we do, we also use AI to look at what algorithms are out there, who's searching for what, What are the patterns? What are the behaviors of your property seekers, right? Because this then informs what people are actually looking for. So it could be location, it could be price, it could be type of dwelling or housing that somebody is looking for. And then it's easy to also predict what the future market rates could be, because we can see over the time when we've collected data for the last 10 years, so we're able to analyze how it has evolved in terms of pricing. Also, what's the most popular? So supply and demand. You also get to see what are the demographics for people searching for property today. So on the buyer side or the property seeker side, we have employed a couple of things. So one of them is like your advanced search filters. So people are able to, quickly put in what they're looking for, and of course you come up with the listings that you are interested in, or similar listings in case they're not on the website. We also have, we also make sure that AI and its algorithms can also spot suspicious listings or suspicious bots. And so we've got tech in place for such things to make sure that there's no fraud on the site. And for me, that's super important because it brings out the trust on the platform. There are other things that help the sellers, and that is, you've got your 3D, you've got your virtual tours, you've got all of that. Now, as I said in the beginning, Google, when it's searching for particular elements that you've put into the question, or the criteria that you've put into the question, it's able to pick up, what are the amenities, what is the square footage of this, or the architectural measurements for this 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or whatever it is that you're looking for. So we've got, we're able to load these documents, we're able to put out your virtual tours so that imagery can be picked up, all right? So now, those are a few things on the buyer side. Now, on the seller side, what is there for them? So for the sellers, it's important for them to understand what are people looking for, right? And we can give them customized data, right? And we also give customized data to our own real estate agents that are advertising with Byron Kenya, or even to our developers that are advertising with us. We're able to sort of give a good analysis of maybe where to build. Where's the next, where's the next Kilaleshwa? Where's the next Kilimani? Because now this is oversaturated, right? So where are we looking at? Satellite towns? What are we looking for people who want to move in those types of towns? Or should we continue to invest in 1-bedroom studio apartments, so 2-bedroom studio apartments? We're able to predict and give that type of analysis to our customers. Not really customers, I call them partners. Right? Yeah, so in a nutshell, I think analytics is super important. And we've been doing this for 10 years because we set up a BI department to actually take hold of this data.
Coming again to you, David, you talked about one of the ways in which you're able to determine someone's affordability is looking at their financial transactions, whether you're looking at the M-Pesa or bank statements. In any way, how do you see privacy playing in terms of how data is handled in real estate? And then we know as early as the mid-2000s when SMSs became very common, we've had an issue of data privacy reoccurring over and over again, particularly in real estate, where the selling gear is number 7. So I don't know what technology you're employing to ensure that data is protected for your potential buyers of property, and what ways do you see that we could leverage on technology to basically protect the consumer or the end user data, real estate?
Okay. First and foremost, Rensco has a license from the Office of the Data Protection Commission as a data collector and processor. So the way we see data privacy and the policies around it, there's the offline aspect and there's the online aspect. So when we're talking about offline aspect, I'll talk about it from a buyer, someone buying a property. So in our case, when someone is coming to find something within their affordability, the only data point you're picking from them is income. So at that point, you're not looking at someone's M-Pesa statement. Just enter your income, no other details, you match to the house. Once you continue the journey with us and you buy the house, that's when now KYC is shared. Now, at the point of sharing KYC, we do not collect the customer's KYC. The person who collects the KYC is the developer, and as we ensure only the people privy to that information collect it. So in no way do we record anyone's KYC when it comes to sales. What we do is record now the demographics of the customer. So the gender, where they're buying from for investment or for living in, such information. And now we use that for, again, analytics to determine market trends. So through that, we're able to know that last year, 30% of purchases were by more affordable home loans, and it's growing. So at least there's uptake. Over 70% of buyers were female, and there was a balance of 50-50 between employed and self-employed. Now, when it comes now to renter assessment, because now the alternative credit scoring plays a part here, which is something we're working on to be able to score tenants for home ownership. So the beneficiaries of this solution are either property managers or financiers. So now here we're looking at sensitive information being shared. So in this case, the platform that the person submits or will submit the M-Pesa statement, that financial information will not be visible to the end user. They'll only be able to see the report that's derived showing the tenant score. Now, when it comes to us now processing information in the system, we ensure encryption. Should I get you some water?
I'm so sorry. I have to apologize to you.
Sorry for the suffering here. Yeah.
Grab a sweet, please.
So as I was mentioning, when it comes now to assessing the renter statements, yeah? So since this is sensitive financial information, the way the systems will be built is information has been encrypted when it's been saved in the database so that the developers cannot see financial information. And then the people who are using the system are able to retrieve it because customers understand the privacy policy when submitting the information. So that's how we're looking at things. Because the information needs to be relayed to the end user, there's a developer involved here, and there's a customer. So things have to be in play to ensure information is well handled amongst the three.
Okay. Let me come to you, Mwai. And so when you look at, one of the question has been, how do we really bring down the cost of alternative metering solutions, especially for water and power? And the benefits are obvious to the developer or to the end consumer. But how do we eventually make it affordable and accessible for most people? In any way, both what you're doing and what you've seen in the market, would you probably enlighten us on some of the things that we think we can do to bring down that cost of alternative energy solutions?
Thank you, Paul. I would say smart metering is a fairly new concept, especially on the utilities. And as normal for all technology concepts or products is that the initial costs usually high. However, as more and more production is happening, there is the essence of optimizing the production process, use of maybe alternative, I would say, raw materials or different ways of doing production. And also as a case, if you look at Kenya, I think right now, I would say most of what is being used as smart meters is mostly imported. But I'm happy to report that ourselves and maybe one or two other entities, we are doing local manufacturing of most of these components or these smart meters. And by this, we'll be able to see close to 20-30% 30% reduction in terms of the cost of the metering devices. And number two, the different approaches that you can use to be able to offer the same solution to the property developers or to the property managers is how I would say maybe moving away from what I would call, the CapEx model of acquiring smart meters to more of the OpEx model of acquiring smart meters. And this is more of now a challenge to us as service providers when it comes to the smart metering, because these are models like long-term contracts that we have with the real estate developers, and we are able to offer the solution on a almost zero upfront cost, and be able to move it to make it more of OpEx. So just to narrow down, is the way to reduce the the cost of smart metering is the involvement of manufacturing, local production, and also maybe different mechanisms of how we can look at the way the product is offered to the market.
Okay. David, allow me to come back to you. And I know you've been in real estate technology for quite some time. And we appreciate that real estate is a laggard, so it's very slow in adoption. But I would perhaps like to know, what do you think, in your own view, would drive faster adoption in real estate? Would you enlighten probably the players in technology in real estate, what they need to how they need to position their product for faster adoption, and how do we marry the non-tech aspect of real estate and integrate that to solutions that could enhance what is happening in the industry?
Okay. So that's a very good question, and Paul, I'm sure we've been sharing notes through the years. First of all, I have to commend Byrent for coming into the market very early and it getting adopted, because Byrent came at a time before even the prop tech determination industry had popped up. So from my observation, what I've seen is technology that markets is easily adopted, things that involve sales and marketing that increase revenue to the end user or the company is better adapted. The next is something that brings in money to whoever the end user is, again, is more adapted. So what I've seen being adapted easily is marketing technology and payment technology. So they still fall, some of them still fall within the prop tech, but they were on the other industry first. Now, when you talk about prop tech specifically, I feel like the Kenyan market is a bit too niche or fragmented sometimes for some solutions. So like for us, the approach we took is we saw what we're offering out to the market is not being picked up by the companies we were hoping it was picked up by. So we reverse engineered and said, why don't we use that technology to solve problems internally for the customer? But still, again, we'll just borrow the same approach of normal marketing and sales, and then the technology is a facilitator of the process. So if now solutions are sold from that point of view, or when you're looking at the customer, to make them understand how it's facilitating more of the process rather than just buy this, buy that, I feel like there'll be acceptance. But beyond that, also, regulation can help a lot. Like if there's further regulation in terms of property managers having the processes formal, things like property management systems would have been picked up well enough. So some of the things also can be helped by the industry beyond just us offering solutions to them.
So Elizabeth, I'll ask the same question, but flip it a bit more. In terms of integration, one of the reality in the market is that we have, parts and bits of technology solutions, assisting in different areas, whether you're looking at valuation stage, building stage, design stage. How do we integrate all this technology and, ideally bank on what, for instance, if you're coming for an occupation, how do we rely on what technology has assisted do in the construction and in the design phase so that we enrich the experience of that end user? How do we bring together all this integrated technology in a harmonious way that enriches the experience of ultimately the person who is living in that property?
Cool. So it's our job to ensure, first of all, as a property marketplace, that this one's experience for search is seamless. And first of all, not only is it seamless, but also shortens the time people are using to search for property. How do we become more efficient in what we're doing? So it's actually making sure that, first of all our AI algorithms are all coming to place. One, as an entity, Google recognizes what people are looking for. Is our knowledge graph up to speed? Secondly, when we're working with real estate agents and developers, we ask them for as much information as possible, like credible information. Mainly, have you got nice, sophisticated, not just your ordinary videos, but have you got some really nice, cool virtual tours? Because that's what people are using. If you're in the diaspora and you want to set something up, you can just, we're actually doing this with one of our suppliers in Nairobi that's able to do WhatsApp and using sort of like your virtual tour to connect with someone in Australia or in America, for example. So it's encouraging them, it's sharing technology with them, it's also enhancing our technology, which we are doing on a literally daily basis. They're larger teams beyond just Byron Kennedy that sit outside various parts of our global unit that are actually using what's going on abroad to also bring it close to home.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be giving a chance to the audience to ask questions. So please prepare any question that you have. I will come to Saitek and then you can ask a question, right? Because now this being the last panel, please take the chance. Susan, we've talked about real estate being fragmented. And it's not just fragmented from a delivery point of view, but even for the players. Yeah. By all means, it's not a standard market. That's why there's an upper market, there's a lower market, yeah. The traditional market, and there's a more modern market. How do you see adoption of like IoT solutions or other AI-led solutions being implemented? Are you only targeting the high market, or do you have hope that the lower market would be able to adopt those solutions?
Okay, good question, Paul. So, I mean, how I see it with the IoT landscape within the real estate industry is there's actually adoption of smart technology in actually building of properties, and maybe I'll just give a case example that the Homes Expo is actually happening at the KICC. And there's a lot of property developers that are showcasing their properties. And Saitek is also there because, I mean, we work hand in hand with the property developers. And I was just going around, I mean, just speaking to a few of the exhibitants there. And it is very interesting to note that most of this building, most of the properties they're selling are actually smart buildings. I was very impressed, and I think we're headed in the right direction. And to answer that is, beauty with IoT is that there are products for whichever class, whichever classification that you'd want to give. There's the high-end Rolls Royce of the IoT products. There's products for the middle class, and there's also products for, I would say, I don't want to call it like a lesser class, but I mean, there's affordability in terms of whichever IoT product you want. What we do is actually sit with the customer, get to understand the budget. Then as Saitek, we actually map the certain or specific solution or product based on the budget the customer has. So we have the Rolls Royce of the IoT, and maybe for a better word to use, maybe, and not to seem biased, the Toyotas, which is okay because I'm a Toyota fan, yeah? But there's that. So I said the perception people have is when you hear IoT and smart technology and smart switches and smart meters, we already have this perception that this is not for me, this is very expensive, but I will urge you, look into the market, try us. We are able actually to offer whichever solutions at whichever budget that you have. Again, IoT is not customized. I mean, there are different solutions based on whichever needs the customer has. We have some off-the-shelf solutions, but mainly it's just to sit with you, get to understand what problem you're trying to solve. And then as product developers, we come in and actually, bring in or get a product or a solution that can actually address your needs. So IoT solutions are quite affordable, very affordable. And I don't see why we should not have like smart stuff in our homes. Basically, I am a strong believer of a smart home. I don't want to touch my sockets. I want to speak, use voice commands like turn on the lights, and the lights are flickering. Wow, And even showcase when you're hosting your guests, you want to show them the way your home is automated. You speak to your coffee vending machine, brew me a latte, or, and it's doable. These are things that are there, practical examples. So we are here to offer. These solutions are there. They are smart. They make our living very comfortable. Yeah, and I don't see why we shouldn't adopt them, honestly.
Any question from the audience before we wrap it up? Please, my friend, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Art. I have a question perhaps for Susan, but also for the panel. Susan, you're so passionate about this. The work I do is to invest into startups across Africa, and one of the biggest challenges they have is the customer behavior. So I'd like to ask you why, with your excitement, why do you think Africans, or at least Kenyans, are not buying the smart home model? I just want to know why, because if you're so excited, if you know why aren't they? And my second question, I guess, is how are you acquiring those customers then ultimately?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. IoT is very close to my heart because I will say maybe I was very fortunate enough to be one of the pioneers of bringing the traditional M2M, because we used to call it machine to machine, the M2M, before we gave it a sophisticated IoT, Internet of Things name. And maybe the reason why, let me use Africa as an example again, because again, I've been fortunate enough to travel in Europe and Southeast Asia, where homes and buildings are smart. Like there's automation of almost anything and everything that you'd want to happen in your typical traditional, setup in terms of a building or a home. So I think maybe why we are not seeing the adoption of these smart technologies is at times I feel that we need to sensitize and also maybe just let our continent know that we have these solutions with us. And I like what Mr. Moria said that, for us to reduce costs on these smart technologies, we are doing them in country, in-house with our teams. Because you see, most of these solutions, the perception is that, you're always going to get them from overseas, but we have capable teams, we have capable minds that we're actually, working on local solutions that address our unique local needs as a continent. Yeah? So I think it's sensitization and maybe just letting the world know that we are here, we can offer such solutions, and they're affordable. Again, perception that I get, people always think that they're very expensive. And maybe, sorry, I didn't get your second question. Kindly rephrase.
I also forgot my own question. So, but I think it was more, how do you acquire those customers, right? Because I guess you answered it as well, right? But how do you acquire a customer that really don't know what a smart home is? Because you're not trying to fix a problem, you're trying to jump on an opportunity, right? And it changed the whole narrative of your business. So that's why I was trying to get that. But yeah, that's fine.
How we acquire, okay, good question again. So how we acquire again, maybe personally from the successes I've had, because we've had quite success in various verticals, in various industries, not in just real estate. We've had, M health, M agriculture, M education, is again just customizing some of these solutions and actually bringing in audiences to see they work. We run things called POCs, or proof of concept, whereby you're able to showcase a certain product or a solution to a customer, let the customer have a feel of it, interact with it, and unearth and let that solution speak to that customer. And I think that's how we've been able to actually achieve most of these successes. Another way is just sitting with the customer, getting to understand their pain points. And then I go back, I take a pen and paper, I write down all their pain points, then I go back to my product knowledge team, and I'm very happy we have our technical director with us here, Mr. James. May you just wave to the crowd. So he's our mastermind and the mind behind all our IoT solution offering, and I normally just take the pain points to him. I'm like, this customer is struggling with visibility on ABC, how can we help? then we come up and actually customize a solution based on that specific customer. So I think that's how I've been able to maybe see the success rate of these IoT technologies.
Thank you. I have another question. Is that okay? Thank you. The question is to not Christabel, David,
Myself or
and
Dennis?
Elizabeth,
Oh,
to
right.
both of you.
Okay.
So I know we all live with the American dream, or perhaps it's the Kenyan dream, to buy a house and to buy a car and whatnot, right? But then all the stats says, I think it's maybe 70 to 75% of the population lives under 25 on this continent and in this country. So my question is, does it affect the way you see the future for you businesses, right? Are you trying to target the millennial, the Gen Z that maybe they don't really care, they're happy to rent and not buy and not own? They don't have the same aspiration as our parents. So I'm just curious from you, both of your businesses, how do you see that evolving, and does it affect really the long-term goal? Because real estate, one thing for sure, it's a long-term game, right?
Yep. Shall I go first? Okay. So first of all, I just want to apologize to everybody for my bouts of coughing. I don't have COVID, so you guys are safe. I just picked up a really bad cold being in the rain this week. But thank you for being gracious and asking me if I'm okay. Thank you so much for the water, and for the young lady who brought me the lozenges, who's now stepped out. Just to quickly answer your question. So real estate is always evolving, right? Unfortunately, in Kenya, 70% of people rent as opposed to 30% who buy. And who are these future cash buyers? So there are lots of things that come into context when we're getting properties that are being advertised on Byron Kenya. Obviously, we want to encourage real estate agents to bring us properties that have the demand and supply. One of these areas is the affordable type of housings, which a lot of private developers are now venturing into. And we have Mivida out there. You've got a couple of others that are doing some smart homes, nice, affordable for middle-class Kenyans, right? But then you've got the diasporas who want to invest, and they're prepared to invest in something for to set up Airbnbs, which we advocate for, various types of listings, and how do we change up the listings. Byron Kenya traditionally has been known as a brand that serves sort of like the mid to upper end of the market, and Pigiami, our sister company, kind of caters for the mid to the lower end of the market, where you've got your student housing and your DSQs, which are more suited there. What's also changing is the taxation, right? And it's that is a totally different topic, but it does play into it because of the interest rates. Our bank's lending, how much are you lending? And when you put your legal fees and your valuation fees and everything, how possible is that dream? Lo and behold, you'll be surprised. You've got a lot of these developers that have come from China that are doing, cheaper but better than what they were doing 5 years ago or 6 years ago. It's kind of improved, and they're kind of they're in the market in Kileleshwa or in Kilimani, and you can see structures. We're now told you can build 25 stories up, right? So stock and inventory will be there. And when you have stock and inventory and you want to sell, I'm sure the prices will come down. Yeah. There's also the Forex fluctuation that's at play. So a little bit of, but I do believe it's the dream will be there. It's just a stretch to get there.
Yeah. So adding on to that, because since our main focus is affordability, what we see is this whole notion of trying to make everybody own a home is not it won't be the solution, because the solution is mainly supplier side. So supplier side, from the first point, is the developers. Are they in a position, well incentivized, to build more affordable homes and build, because we see the gap is not even affordable rent, but affordable and quality. Because sometimes when you're paying under 50K, you find yourself settling for something which is not quality. So how can we find affordable and quality? On the supply side, are the developers well incentivized and well financed to offer that stock? Because now we have a deficit of about 200,000. And then from that point, if a developer is building to sell, the next person is the investor buyer. Is this investor buyer in a position also to be able to buy a home? So, because again, as much as there's a lot of affordable housing, over 90% of these buyers are investor buyers. It's not owner-occupier. So these investor buyers also need to be told that you don't have to have 50 million shillings to build a flat. With the 5 million shillings, you can buy a home, and at the end of the day, you provided an affordable house to rent to someone. So that's how we see it. If the supply side is sorted well, renting will continue. I don't see the renting percentage reducing. How can we improve the stock for those renters? Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much to the panel. Let's give them a warm round of applause. Bringing the curtains down on this 11th summit. And I want to thank you very much for that engaging conversation, and to the audience as well for listening in, for engaging, taking the lessons. Thank you for attending this 2 days conference. For those who've been here for the 2 days, those who maybe have joined us for any of the 2 days, asanteni sana. We wish you all the best. The 12th summit will be here next year.